To the show where three generations of family go head to head on a variety of topics. We got one Gen-Zer, one Millennial, and one BDB. No matter what the topic may be, you better believe that it'll be up for debate. Today's topic is about the church. Chloe, do you want to do this intro since you had some awakenings or some eye-opening revelations?
Let's see. I don't even know where to start with this because I feel like clearly there was a whole lot going on that I was not privy to. I guess I'll start with the most recent thing. So this whole Joel Osteen situation and this money that was found in this church. So essentially a plumber was there to fix a toilet or whatever the case may be, and the toilet was loose. So they broke the wall to get the toilet out and see what was going on. And a whole bunch of envelopes and money, about $600,000 fell out of the wall. And then in 2014, well, what we learned since in 2014, Joel Osteen had filed a claim for money that was missing. Now, what I have gathered since, this must have been money that was lost, because in reality, that'd be kind of stupid to file a claim and then hide the money in the church. So apparently there was some type of reward that was out that was being offered by the church for anybody who found the money and stuff like that. So I think this one might be legit, but it leads to a bigger issue. And that issue is just money in church. And besides the money in the church, there were new things that were popping up that I was unaware of. And that's the pastoral adultery. This was news to me. So I'm chilling.
Explain.
So I'm chilling with the wife and the sister-in-laws and whatever. And, they're watching Real Housewives of Potomac or whatever. And this lady on there keeps saying, I helped my husband or whoever, build a church. And everybody's like, oh, you're stupid for being with him and this and that and all this other stuff. And I'm like, what is going on? So I'm like, who is she talking about? And they're like, Jamal Bryant. And I'm like, Jamal Bryant? I only know one Jamal Bryant. I'm like, Jamal Bryant? I'm like, nah, no way.
You mean
like,
out to the people, Jamal
yeah,
Bryant?
I'm sitting here like the pastor? And they're like, yes. And they're looking at me like I'm crazy. Like, you don't know? And I'm like, clearly not. So like, yeah, he's got like 10 kids and a whole bunch of baby mamas, and he does this, and I'm like, and people still attend the church, like it's all good. And they're like, yeah, they just kind of it's like whatever. I had no idea. Now, then I got put on to like this whole John Gray situation. They're like, yo, this dude is apologizing to his wife for cheating like every 3 months. And I was like, seriously? And now at this point, they're looking at me like, bro, like, you got to do better. And I'm just like, yo, I had no, like, these are dudes who I watch, and I'm like, yo, these dudes are mad dope and all this other stuff. And I guess it's my fault. A possible misinterpretation of, Instagram posts or, things they may have said, that I thought they were speaking on the past and didn't realize this is something present. But I didn't even notice that it was something that was kind of just repeat offenses, where it's like, yo, this dude's apologizing to his wife for doing stuff every few months. I was like, I had no idea. I did not know this dude was a known cheater and everything, with mad kids and having babies on and all this. Like, it's just, I had no idea. And like, it's insane when you think about it. And like, one of the things just that this Joel Osteen thing kind of highlighted was, I will never forget watching Creflo Dollar ask his congregation for $65 million so he can get a private jet. I was like, where are we going with this? Or T.I. being in church and they're like, how the pastor, there's somebody in here who's got deep pockets, blessed pockets. And it's just like, really? And it's just, it just makes you think like, yo, what is happening? It just feeds that stereotype. And maybe it's not a stereotype. Maybe it's just reality that a lot of these churches, it's all about money. It's how can I, how can we get to the next dollar? And to some degree, rip these people off. Now, it's kind of difficult at times to think that there's, well, actually, hold on, let me stop. What do you guys think about it? And did you know about this whole
I
like
was just about to
John
say,
Gray?
pick me. Ooh, pick me.
Like, yeah, like, did you know about all this John Gray and Jamal Bryant and all this other stuff? And
Ooh,
for
pick me,
those,
pick me, pick me,
and just as a
pick
side
me.
note, I was a, weekly attender of Hillsong Church. So yes, my pastor, Pastor Carl Lentz, yes, it hit home for me too. And so it's just, I had no idea all this stuff was happening. So yes, please do share your knowledge because
Okay.
this was news to me.
I think I'm going to go first on this particular debate, only because I have probably the most experience.
Wait, I'm sorry. Before you go, let's make clear what the debate is for our audience. What is the debate here?
Well, one, I was asking for your opinion, but yeah, so the debate essentially is, are these, I don't want to say black churches, but are these mega churches, are they doing it for the money? Why is it that it seems like people look past obviously nobody's perfect, but is it for the money? Is it for the fame? What exactly is it that, are they effective? Are they real churches? Like, are they, like,
Oh, pick
is
me,
it truly the gospel? Like, what exactly is it?
pick me, pick
Okay.
me. Okay. Tag, you it. Okay. All right. So, since I have literally grew up in the church, fall asleep in the church, wake up in the church, be there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then on Sunday, all day Sunday. Yes, served in ministry for a very long time. Was just having, matter of fact, Chris, you was basically born in the church. I practically dropped you in the church. And then you just fell asleep on the drums,
Oops.
But I was telling my girlfriends this past weekend, I was just like, there was a time when I was younger that I thought that my career was going to be church. Understand? Like, told me one time, a long time ago, he was like, yo, you are always here. And I took offense.
Can I interject real quick?
Sure.
I actually thought the same thing.
See?
Which is actually funny because I think you were doing my mom's hair one day. And I was like, yo, you do hair?
At the church?
Like, I thought you was a gospel singer. It's like, I thought you was all 100% church. That's just what I thought. And I'm sitting there like,
I was.
You do hair, like, and it wasn't like you were doing hair, like you do hair. So I was like, oh, I didn't know.
I went to get my license. And see that, thank you for bringing that up. Instead of going to college when I first got out of high school, I went to cosmetology school to get my cosmetologist degree because I was just like, when I'm on the road, this is what I'm going to be doing. I was traveling, doing ministry, going, that was my life. Now, fast forward to 2022 and the tomfoolery that we now see on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, the Snapchat, and TikTok with some of the more well-to-do preachers. There is nothing new under the sun. The amount of sexual perversion, backbiting, whoremongering, stealing, violent behavior that I've witnessed has been from church folks. Now, I've been in, the secular industry, around industry people, and then I've been around gospel industry artists and stuff like that before Twitter was a Twitter. Now, you will see somebody who will sing and preach the walls down, and you be up in the service, and then you go in the back in the office, and them mofos is straight demons. And I'm not saying that this is the norm with everybody, but one thing that I had to realize in my old age is that being used does not mean that you can't be flawed, phony, fake, whorish, evil. That does not mean you can't be all those things, because if you look at any of the prophets and apostles and ministers in the Bible that were used by God who had mad flaws. And because of the fact that I've been an artist, I always bring up David. David literally, and I'm not talking about David Tutera or what's another David?
Isn't that the wedding dude?
Yeah, but see, people don't know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about David, King David, who is had the heart of God. He was, he was a musician. He was the bomb.com, but he literally set up his boy to die in battle so he can sleep with his wife.
Yeah, it's kind of deep.
Yeah. So he can bang his wife. And this is, people that were quote unquote used by God. Paul said, every time I try to do good, evil is always present. And Paul is one of the most famous apostles in the Bible. So the fact that, Jamal has his shortcomings, and John Gray, John, sometimes you just need to sit down, because you keep on, like, every time you apologize, he got to apologize in public because you making a fool of yourself in private. And when I say that, it is nothing new. Back in my day, when these mofos was trying to do stuff, and this is when I was like 3 pounds, trying to do stuff to me, wasn't no social media, none of that. I just had to deal with the joint and hope somebody believed me if I told them. And I think that's why I was so jaded when I was younger, because I always used to think that everybody was just, so full of the Holy Spirit. Oh, hallelujah. Oh, glory be to. Now, I side-eye everybody just because of the experiences that I had, especially when it comes to people in the church. And I'm not going to say the churches that I've been in, the artists that I've been around, because that's nobody's business. However, the people that were of the aforementioned people, they ain't nobody but a human being with fleshly desires. Jamal, he wasn't a good husband, but Giselle decided she was going to try again and try to get their family back together, knowing that he had 78 baby mamas. But yet, at the end of the day, Jamal Bryant is really like the only pastor that's on the front line when it comes to social justice. So you're going to be like, no, we don't want you to speak for the people because you cheated on your wife. Now you're not married and you just slinging wherever, Are we going to say no to that? But yet he's on the front line doing what he got to do for the people that look like us on a daily basis. Meanwhile, John Gray, after Dr. A.R. Bernard, much respect, stepped down from Trump's administration as his religious spiritual advisor. Then here go John Gray. I want to go up there. I want to sit up there with you too. Knowing, just sit down. Sit all the way down. Because clearly John does like the camera. Hence the reason why he had his reality show on OWN. But that's besides the point.
He had a reality show?
Him and Aventer.
That's what it was called?
Yes.
Oh, the Book of John. I thought it was called the Book of John. I was about to be like, oh boy, here we go. I don't know how I never knew. Like I don't know.
You can't get personal with it. You can't, and that's what a lot of us do. We put these ministers on pedestals and like they're deity almost. Like, oh my God, they're used by God. But the same God that uses them can use you if you make yourself available to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, one of the things, like, that I always think with pastors. I feel like I would always want a pastor who's been through some stuff, like somebody who understands what's out there in the world. This way, like not only when they counsel you, but when they're preaching or whatever, it's like it's practical. You know what I'm saying? They can speak from experience, and I don't know. I find it weird, even though like again, I like John Gray, I like Jamal Bryant,
And Joel?
I like Joel. As a matter of fact, my brother has my Joel Osteen book. I don't know if he finished reading it, but it's just I want them to just have not just work, just life and worldly experience. I feel like you need that. Like it's hard to me, I think, to be a pastor who's never been through anything. And I feel like a lot of the times, sometimes, well, I'm not saying a lot, but sometimes I feel like those are the pastors who like get up there and say, oh yeah, Jesus, this is this. And it's like, Pastor such and such is out here at the strip club doing this, that, and everything else. And it's like, okay, clearly he's just wilding right now. But then you have this Jamal Bryant thing. And what's hard for me when I heard that, I was like, yo, I get it. No, like I don't put anybody on the pedestal and nobody's perfect, but it's very hard for me to be like, yeah, I'm gonna go to his church on Sunday when it's like this dude had like 50 kids while he was married, and
Not all of them were while he was married.
And it's just, you're out here getting busy. Let's just
I think he had one or two before he actually got married.
I don't know if I don't want to say it's confusing. It's just, I don't know. It's hard. Like, how do you listen to somebody where it's like you're preaching, and I know you're not perfect, but if you ain't practicing what you're preaching, then why the hell should I listen to you? Like, and it was funny because it was like,
are you listening to them or are you being taught by them? Because somebody teaching you is not necessarily being, you have to do this or you have to do that. They're teaching you ways, they're teaching you principles and practices, and so that you can then apply it to your life in whatever shape, form, or fashion. But then at the end of the day, they're giving you tools, and then they're saying, okay, you need to go home and you need to study the stuff that I gave you so that you know how to, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if it's more of you listening to them or are you receiving information.
So I'll give you an example. So it's almost like this. So let's just say, as an example, you go on Instagram or something, and you know, Pastor Brian has a nice, 6 or 7 minute, little clip up there, and he's speaking on fornication and all this other stuff, right? And you're like, all right, great, this is awesome. And then you just so happen to glide by, what is it, Bravo or whatever network the show was on, and you're literally listening to people be like, yo, why are you even with this man? Like, before they even said his name, I was just sitting there like, yo, what kind of man is this woman with? Like, this is crazy. I was sitting there like, yo, this is crazy. Like, who is this dude? And everybody was like,
found out he was a well-known pastor. You was like, what?
Yeah, and I was like, what? This is crazy. So to me, it's that kind of thing where it's like you listen to people talk about stuff all the time and give advice and preach the word on things that they're clearly not following. And then it's kind of interesting. Like you mentioned, he's always on the front line for social justice and things like that. And it's weird. It's kind of like, do you back him on social justice and the church? Like, is it one or the other? Or if you back one, you got to back the other? It's just weird. I don't expect anybody to be perfect, but I do feel like, as an example, like, like the presidency, I do believe that there are requirements, in a certain standard that you have to hold yourself to be in a particular position. You know what I'm saying? Perfect? No. But for lack of a better way of saying it, better than the average person? Yes. Or more well-behaved than the average person? Sure. But it's just hard to think like, I wish I could remember everything they said. It's just hard to think that the way they were talking
I know
on the show,
I know everything they said.
you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just hard to be like, yo, they're talking about like a prominent Black pastor, with a large following being this kind of person. And it's just weird to see, I guess, and hear, because I just didn't expect it. But maybe I should expect it. Because I mean, this is something that we see that's going on a lot. It's like these, and it's not just pastors, but it's also these guys who are online, the Derek Jacksons, what I'm saying, who act like they're the holier than thous and all this other stuff and whatever. And then next thing
And
you
got
know,
hoes in
you
different
know what I'm
area
saying?
codes. Mhm.
So I guess my question is, where exactly are these mega churches real? And I guess I'll just answer that really quickly for myself. I think they are real, and I think there are people out there who do it the right way,
Mhm.
because it's one of those, like, we've all been in a church where it's kind of like, yeah, we got a building fund and we got this fund. We've got a building fund and we've got this and we've got that. And it's just like, yo, where's this money that I'm giving y'all going to? Because we ain't paying anything since I've been in here. And then you see these other churches and it's like, well, how did you get this church? Hey, the people, they're paying their tithes, they're sowing, and we're growing. And what I'm saying, I've seen churches who take that money and they build bigger churches, and they remodel, they renovate, and they try to make it, a greater place. And then other people, it's like, hey, I see this pastor is out here, getting new whips and new houses and new cars, and he's doing his thing. But this church is a box. Like, what are we doing? What are we sowing into? And then then you have like the behaviors of the pastors and the people in the church. And then it's such a weird mix of, I don't know, just behavior that it kind of becomes confusing and you don't really know where to go. So to me, I think people like Michael Todd, I like him. I think he's real. I think he's genuine. I think he's, what I'm saying, on the front line. I think he absolutely, like, he preaches in a way where it's like, yo, I've been through some stuff and I'm going to tell you what I've been through, and don't even go through that. Like, what I'm saying? Like, he's telling you that stuff and he's living it. And it's not, what I'm saying? And it's just, it almost seems like people like him become more rare every day.
True.
Or even like, it's actually funny. He's a pastor now, but like growing up, he was like my mentor. He was my tutor. What I'm saying? Pastor Dwayne. He was the officiant at my wedding. Like, people like him, I remember like just coming up, and he kept it so real. Like, he was just like, yeah, like, this is what you got to do. And this, what I'm saying? Like, he just kept it so real with you. And it was just like, wow, like, I never knew that I could talk to, a man of God about this stuff. But then at the same time, in your mind, it's like, I should be able to talk to somebody about this kind of stuff. Why not a pastor? You know what I mean? Like, why are certain things so taboo to talk about? And it's like, yo, this is life. And if you're talking to somebody who has no experience in this stuff, or just in the world at all, because I think one of the things that also happens in these churches, people get very judgmental, and as soon as you become a Christian or whatever, or you get baptized, and the very next day you've never done anything wrong. You know what I mean? So it's just it's kind of, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but I definitely think mega churches can be real. I think they can be effective when led by the right people. And I think that's a very obvious thing to say, but I also think we see, not that these people are the wrong people, but it's just, you're not really helping the stereotype of what people perceive the megachurch or the Black megachurch to be.
Sure.
As far as,
I like your hat, by the way.
thank you, repping the brand. You already see how it goes. As far as debating whether or not megachurches are effective, I think regardless of what the stereotype is, I don't think you're ever gonna stray away from the stereotype. It is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Anything that's led by a human being is bound to be spoiled by human, human flaws. So I'm not surprised. That doesn't surprise me. But when you talk about or debating whether or not the megachurch is effective, I think, yeah. I think personally, church is the new trap. As opposed to selling bricks, they're selling hope. You know what I'm saying? So you have the effectiveness really lies within the fact that you have a ton of influence. You have tens and thousands of attendees every Sunday. That's effectiveness. That's efficacy. You know what I'm saying? It's not a matter of morality anymore. That's subjective to everybody, because obviously you still have the same people coming back every Sunday looking towards whatever they're looking towards. And at the end of the day, like I said, church is the new trap. When you look at drug dealers, whether or not you're debating the morality, you look at them and some people say, oh, I want to have that car, I want to have that road. So you come to Sunday, you see your pastor with a private jet and a mansion or whatever. That's what you aspire to want, essentially. You know what I'm saying? You're hoping that being in the presence of that is going to ultimately lead you to the things that, or the worldly possessions that your pastor has. You're in a big church, you know what I'm saying? The status. I remember one of these reality shows where it was Dietrich Haddon, a bunch of people on there.
Preachers of LA.
Preachers of LA, same situation.
There was a show called Preachers of LA.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, you had Noel Jones. You had
Bunch of big names.
Dietrich Haddon and his wife.
Yeah, that's my
Whole nother
stance.
story.
You're selling hope.
That's indulgences.
Selling hope. Churches are effective. Scandalous? Yes. Effective? Absolutely. Moral? That's subjective.
But when you say effectiveness, because of the fact that most Black people, let's just call it what it is, most Black people and people of color, are part of a church, right? Growing up in Brooklyn, you have 16 churches on one block.
Absolutely.
Right? You go down Rogers and you see a church, and each church got about 4 members, and 3 of them is your family. You know what I'm saying? But then you have the mega churches that are like CCCs, Allen AME, the New Hope, New Birth, Joel Osteen Church,
Lakewood.
the Potter's House.
Shout out to TD Jakes.
Shout out to TD Jakes, the AME out in California. You know, I'm not forgetting my church roots. Then you have Kojic. You have all of these denominations. You have the Seventh-day Adventists. You have the Jehovah's Witness, right? You have all of these organized religions, but they're under the Christian guise, right? And you said, are they effective? Jehovah's Witnesses don't vote. They're not into any type of public.
Well, I mean, before you get into that, I think it's important to highlight what it is, or highlight how you define effectiveness, because it's really contingent upon what you hope to gain from it, and that's specific to each person.
Okay, let's do a quick history lesson. Chaya's history lesson. Church history lesson.
No idea what that was.
Church, huh? That was like a
Okay.
Yep. Church in the United States, the Black church was founded in slavery, right? We all know that.
Yeah.
Okay, we all know that. Now, when we first came here, we didn't have the culture and the home that we came from, that we were stolen from. So we had to kind of make it up. And we kind of put in our own, the rituals that we had from our tribe, because now we're a whole bunch of different tribes coming together, you know, and now we're on a plantation together. And now we're trying to get, you know, ourselves established in this foreign land, and we scared to death, and we being worked to death. So now church was the escape, right? We sang, we praised, we hid messages within the songs that we sang, so we would know when certain people are coming or what to do when this happens. You know, we did that as a form of unity, right? And then my boy Nat, they had him going around to the plantations so that he can keep the slaves in check, because they seemed like they was trying to get out of line. These slaves is out their mind. You need to use the word, the scriptures, so that you can let them know that they must adhere to the slave master, and they must do the slave master's bidding. And that's what Nat Turner originally was going around to do, until he's like, wait a minute, I heard from God. And he said, this ain't what it is. We're going to kill these mofos. Let's go. You know? Now, granted, they killed him. And I believe his hair is still inside some chairs. They skinned him alive. Use the skin as lamp skins, you know. This is the savagery, but we're not going there. That's not what I'm talking about.
Kind of confused.
So, huh?
I said, yeah, I'm kind of confused.
Yeah, no, I just had to, I had to give a backstory. So moving forward, the church still was the unification of us. Even after the Emancipation Proclamation and we were quote unquote free, we still gathered because that was the safe place. You know what I'm saying? And then you had them, the others that would come burn the churches, you know, burn crosses on people's lawn in the name of Jesus, right? So you had a separate type of religion, but we were quote unquote praying to the same God, right?
Okay.
But we still had the churches. And then the church throughout history has been the cornerstone of change and of the voice of the people, and to be like a refuge for those that are weary, that are wounded, that just need help. The church was that thing. When it came to socio-political issues, the church was on the front line. Big ups to my boy Martin Luther King Jr., that was a minister, Ebenezer Baptist Church. He went all over the country preaching the word of God and inspiring those, and sitting with the president for change for people that look like him, that look like you, that look like me. Now, I don't know when the shift happened. I believe it was in the 70s and 80s when the crack cocaine epidemic happened, that now church went from that pillar in the community that was the one that was, you know, that basically kept the community in line, kept the community safe. Then you had people that were just more so in it for, yeah, I got the Benz, I got the Rolls Royce, I got the big house. Yes. I'm doing the efficacy. Just roll with me.
Okay, all right. Yep.
The efficacy. So then you get the more, they start to realize they could really monetize this and get paper. Have you ever seen, what's the dude, and he would just
a lot more specific than that.
He would just do like this. Like that's,
I know who you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about, right?
Yep. I don't know his name, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, okay, but you know what I'm talking about. And he would just put his hand and everybody would just fall out, right? Then you had these big, like the Tammy Faye Bakers and these ministers epitomized like godliness. You had Jesse Jackson, who was also a minister. Then you had Fred Price. Fred Price was like the real big one back in the day, that was a Black man that had a nice car, that was, you know, G.E. Patterson. These were the people that were on TV, Black pastors that were really, you know, speaking the word. But then they also had like bank. You seen them with big houses and big cars. And then you had us that was like, oh, I gotta say, this is the legal hustle. I could, like you said, Chris, I could hustle hope. And now that's why you have a church on 69 corners, because people now get the 501c3 status from the government. They get free stuff from the government. Any money that you get in you're not taxed on. So all of these donations that come in from Jennifer and Louie and Lonnie and Chris and Berta, all of these donations, they can just go right in your pocket. And you don't have to say a word to Uncle Sam. And when people understood that this is the new hustle and they can really get it how it's gotten, a lot of us took advantage of it. and used that as the new hustle and just learned how to, they faked it until they made it type of religion. And you know what I'm saying? So when I say efficacy, I feel that the church is watered down from the way that it was in my man Martin's time, because the churches were the source of change. Churches right now, what change are you seeing?
Well,
Brooklyn should not have any
subjective.
crime with as much churches as that they
very
have.
Subjective. That's
No,
it's specific to
it's
it
reality.
is. It
It's
is.
reality.
Fine,
What is the church doing right now?
Because that's what
Run
you
down
want.
5 things.
Mother, that's what
Run
you
down
want.
5. This is a debate. Run down 5. I want to know what they doing.
Efficacy, right? And the ability to be effective in whatever movement you're trying to push, right? The church, and more specifically religion, has always been easily weaponizable, even before the 70s and 80s, regardless of whether or not it's Christianity.
Oh yeah.
Right? So the effectiveness of religion has never been understated, right? It's just dependent on what movement you're trying to push.
Okay.
You're just speaking
so in that case,
towards social change. Sure.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go there. Let's go there. The movement. The church.
But you just said that it's not effective in social change. But
Listen,
I'm debating the efficacy of church.
Yes,
church
I'm about to tell you
effective.
how. I'm about to tell you how. You know how the church is effective? The church has been the backbone of these laws.
So you're speaking more specifically to social change then? Yeah, I'm just speaking about the effectiveness of church. That's what I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing
The effectiveness
with
of church.
social change.
But
Church and religion is just flat out effective because of how easily weaponizable it is. Think about all these extremist groups, right? It's in the name of religion, Allah, right?
Don't say Allah. Don't say Allah.
That's what they say.
I know, no, but I'm saying you have more people doing stuff in the name of Jesus Christ than you have doing it in the name of Allah.
Christianity and I believe the Muslim religion are the 2 top religions in the world.
Yes.
Right? And their ability to get things done, regardless of what those things are, cannot be understated because it's religion. Something that's undeniable. When you put God or a deity in the mix, you don't question it. And when you have someone that's preaching about God and a deity that can't be denied, then you have the ability to make things happen.
Do you not remember how this country was formed? Because they were looking for a new land so that they can have religious freedom.
Which is my point. Efficacy.
But efficacy
you're talking about
who? Huh?
So we're talking about it being effective as
in general,
like general use effective.
Oh, you talking about general use?
That's what I've been saying. Just efficacy. That's what efficacy is.
B, you can't do a general use in 2021.
Yeah, so I kind of think. So I look at it this way. So
have me go through that long song and dance, and you just talk about general use.
Literally kept trying to repeat to you the same thing. Literally.
So I kind of look at it like this. For general use purposes, whether that's, to spark social change, start a war, create laws, what I'm saying, legislation, change, war, whatever it might be. For general use, is it effective? I think it's effective for those obviously doing it. So the person who's planning the attack, slavery was right because this is what the Bible says, and they pick that one line in the Bible that they can manipulate. Even that might not be what it meant, but they can find a way to manipulate that one line, and then they do that. Sure. I think for me, when I was talking, just for clarity, when I was talking about effectiveness, I was just talking about, is the church effective in doing what the church is supposed to do? So based on the message that you're preaching, from the word you're preaching it from, are you effective in doing that? So if we're talking about saving souls, is the mega church effective in doing that? Now, we'll get to that in a second, but this general use thing is kind of interesting, though, because I also think it applies to the knowledge base of the people who you're using it on. Mm-hmm. So, if, for example, like if I try to use the general use idea of, like if I come to Chaya and I'm like, oh, well, we're going to create this legislation of racism or whatever the case may be, you know, something that's, you know, hard, that's backed by racism. You're going to know, like, this is not what the word means. Why? Because you know the word.
Mhm.
Somebody who doesn't know that will follow that and think that that's what it means. So the general use, it's hard. It is subjective. I think it's powerful for the people who, like, if you can get a following just off of, hey, you're gonna get, you know, 16 virgins or 90 virgins in the afterlife, just strap this bomb to your chest real quick and make it happen. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's a deal right there.
It's like, so what you're saying is it's going down when it goes down. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it goes down when it goes down. And it's just like, that's effective, whether or not you're lying to them, whatever it might be. If you can, it's effective when you can manipulate it, you know, for your use. And it's so wide ranging, even though that's not what it should be used for, but it's so wide ranging because, I mean, that's what Christianity or Islam, that's what these things are for, essentially. Like, these are not necessarily, like, I don't look at Christianity specifically as a religion. To me, it's a way of life. It's how you live your life. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know if the word, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Kai, you might know. I'm not even sure if the word religion is actually in the Bible. Like, the actual word religion.
Do a control F on the Bible and see if you find it.
We can't hear you.
Whoopsies. Sorry, I was saying yes, it is.
Okay, so, like, it's just very weird to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the general use thing. It's a manipulative thing. I think it's, if you're using religion or Christianity, Islam, I don't care what it is, Confucianism, whatever it is, Hindu, Buddha, whatever it is, if you're using that to manipulate people, then to me, it's already being used the wrong way. So it's hard to say that using religion for general use is the right way to go. Now, again, a lot of stuff that we use in that way is effective because, again, you're manipulating, you know what I'm saying? So
right.
It's hard. I just kind of feel like once you step outside of using it for what you should be using it for, like, if you're not saving souls, if you're not, you know, being the example that you should be as, you know, the leader of a church or whatever the case may be, then how exactly is what you're doing lasting or sticking? Because it's almost like, and I'm going to just use, you know, no disrespect, I'm just going to use Jamal Bryant as the example. If I'm watching him and the way he moves, no matter how great his word is, and no matter how, you know, how wonderful he is and how powerful he is, I might just be like, well, yo, Pastor Bryant out here doing his thing too. So, you know, can't be that bad. I'm saying, yeah, I mean, yo, there's thousands of people here to see him on Sunday. I mean, it's all good. People know what he's doing. Nobody really cares. You know what I'm saying? So is it, I guess.
I think that comes with spiritual maturity.
I think that's a good word for it too, because there's a very great disparity between religion and spirituality.
Absolutely.
Right. So when you come to a church, so forget general use, right? So when you talk about morality and saving souls and, you know, leading people to be spiritual, the church absolutely has the potential to be effective in doing that because of its ability to be influential. However, when you get to the flesh, that's when things start getting a little muddy, right? Because then you start separating the relationship between your pastor and the relationship with your higher power.
And a lot of people aren't able to separate.
Happens. And a lot of people are not able to discern. So when we come back to the efficacy, right? The ability to be effective, the ability to, or in this case, be influential. The church will always have that power, being that you're dealing with something as high stakes as
someone's soul and their
right. You know what I'm saying? So that will always be the case, regardless of who's on that pulpit. It just depends on, one, the level of discernment in the follower, and two, the effectiveness of the preacher or the pastor or whatever spiritual leader is up there.
So just as a I guess, quick follow-up to that. So in regards to discernment, the church goer needs to understand that the pastor is not God and see the difference between the two. Because I do think that a lot of times, especially in the mega churches and in the big churches, the pastor is the almighty. You know what I'm saying, he's rich, he's powerful, he's got the church, he leads the people, he does all these things. Therefore, you know, the influence is there. It's just, and now that I think about it, to be honest with you, it's kind of disappointing, because I think when I think of church, I feel like the way I think of it and the way the world thinks of it are two very different things. Because a lot of times you hear people think, oh, they just want money, or are they just trying to get this from you, or are they just trying to do this? And it's kind of like, and this is another thing that I kind of want to get to in regards to effectiveness. How effective are you if what the thing that people associate with you is negative?
Stay tuned for scenes from the next episode of Up for Debate.
And you start to manipulate the system for your own good and your own gain. And I feel like
are you admitting to manipulating the system?
No, because
Aha!
Are you
well,
admitting to
as a matter of
manipulating
fact,
the Champs cash register?
Fab Maven, the official brand of the Maven movement, a bold and unapologetic brand for the culture that uplifts and empowers, a brand that says, we got something to say. So go to fabmaven.com right now and get your online shop on.